The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves the Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne Delaflor, and I'm charged today. I'm charged with energy, with excitement, and with a lot of energy because, you get to hear this podcast, after they are edited and a couple of either a week, two after they are recorded. And today I've been recording incredible people, and the woman that I'm about to share her wisdom with you and interview and just go into an inner flow. These are flow-versations, God-versations, more than conversations, and not something just structurally prepare mentally. We really flow. We flow under the basis of the genius of our guest, and our guest today. Wait till you hear her and I'll introduce her to you. Before that, I just want to remind you that we are a philanthropic-based podcast. No one sponsors us except my company, the Delaflor Teachings International, a coaching and consultant systemic and spiritual company serving people like individuals like you and I and teams, really, really get into our next level, design our next futures, going from darkness, dimness, and brightness to brilliancy in all of those modalities. So my company is proud sponsor of this, and we're also sponsored by Authority Syndication Media, which happens to be the production company that is helping us bring this podcast into the world. We're about to grow up as a podcast. We've been growing. We just recently hit the 100 podcast mark, and we're going to go into video podcasting very soon. But I'm so slow in the process always. Like people want me to rush and marketing things and gimmicks. I am such old style. My beloved friends, when it comes to building something, creating something, I'm such a believer. One of my deepest core values is foundations. So to have deep foundations where things grow deeply in the ground first, and then they can sustainably grow. So that's what my company helps people with, sustainable human transformation. And it's not only a marketing gig, it's actually something that is possible when we do things right and when we do the work. Anyways, enough of me. So my guest, she's a gorgeous woman, by the way, physically, energetically, spiritually, emotionally. And she's such a powerful lady. Her name is Emily Rivera. She's known as the Angel Coach. She's an international legal expert in intuition, business growth, impact, manifesting, higher consciousness, and helping adults and children with heightened sensitivities and abilities. As a speaker, author, coach, and teacher, she eloquently blends the practical with the esoteric. Ooh, I love that. Offering clear and precise direction and action steps to those that work with her. She serves clients in over 130 countries. She's described by clients and participants as an earth angel whose presence and messages have powerfully helped them quickly attain their desired results, while simultaneously helping them feel clarity and peace. Clarity and peace are so needed these days, more than ever. She's an otherworldly speaker, guide, intuitive that delivers individuals into experiencing out of the ordinary outcomes and higher consciousness. Her clients, through her insights, quickly and easily create a life of fulfillment, freedom, love, and divine connection. Emily's insights have been helping guide her and others since her childhood. Since an early age, Emily has had direct communication with ascended lights, angels, archangels, masters, beings of light, and cosmic rays. And it's cosmic rays, and it's been her purpose to share their guidance and love, with also offering practical tools and direction to help individuals create the life they desire and they deserve. She has been working and helping celebrities, CEOs, thought leaders, influencers, and individuals of varying ages and backgrounds awaken to their own mastery, life purpose, creative spark, and intuitive awareness so they can be of greater impact while also living a life of abundant flow and joyful fulfillment. Emily, it's like your bio. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, I'm so honored to have you, Emily. Welcome to the podcast. Finally, it's like a wish come true for me.
Well, I am feeling and have felt the same way. I've been looking forward to this opportunity to enjoy the flow of spirit, the flow of love, and just really experience each other in this way where we can show up, deliver, and really serve. So I am excited to be here. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, and honored to just be sharing this time with you and your listeners.
Yes, thank you. And we are, I just found out that you're from Puerto Rico. All of this time I was living in a hallucination state that you were from Italy and you speak Spanish. So, our podcast serves the Spanish speaking community, Spanish, English, but it's the Latin American community. So they'll be thrilled to know, we have a lot of people from Puerto Rico too. So it's just a cool thing to mention. But let's begin with the flow conversation, since you are such an intuitive and such a guide and called the angel coach. We're going to start like non-linearly, but when was the angel coach born? I know many people will ask you about your childhood and everything, but I want to know, when was that moment of embodiment for you, as you're world renowned as the angel coach? When was that birth? What happened? When was the beginning of the angel coach?
So when I started my business or company, I actually started with Living to Inspire, which is what they audibly gave me. So all my life, it's always been in a state of allowing and inviting for guidance. And honestly, the guidance, I became more intentional in asking for guidance as I got older and when my daughter was born. But before that, guidance would just show up and be given to me, as needed. It's the best way I could explain it. But this in particular, like, for example, Living to Inspire was something that was given, and they encouraged me to really move into my delivery, my sharing, my showing up through that intention, right? That I was living to inspire. And that was what I was also mirroring back for people to also awaken within themselves. And that went, I did that for about 1 or 2 years. And then after that, the same way that I got given Living to Inspire, a group of angels and masters, I audibly showed up and they said the angel coach. And they encouraged me to embrace that title, embrace that name, and for it to be what I led with. And they did tell me, they say, there will come a time where that will change. But for now, it's the angel coach. And I've been using the angel coach now for over a decade. It's been 11 years.
Wow.
And and now, of course, the new name has been introduced, but I'm still continuing the angel coach just because that's part of what they're wanting me to maintain and continue to flourish with and share.
That is so powerful. I myself, I don't know how was your, and I love how like just nonchalant you share like the masters, it's like you talk to them like, my cousin just came into my office, ascended masters and angels just came into my door. It's like you talk to it so familiar. And I've had the experiences with these, I call it the voice, the collective of the voice of God on angels and beings. But you were given, I love that you were given the name angel coach, because a lot of my programs have been like, well, from the voice. I call it the voice, right? It doesn't make sense to anyone, but it makes sense to our soul to follow that simple guidance. And so when you receive the angel coach, and I love that it's going to change, because I always a believer that missions are always in an evolution process, right? And then you will know when that the angel coach graduates into the next evolutionary need that humanity comes to be served through you. So tell me a little bit about that. You know what your for you is like typical day that I am talking to the ascended masters, but tell us about when was your first cognitive experience, like you fully conscious, like, wow, I'm actually talking to a being that is in another dimension realm, higher dimensions, higher frequency beings that are communicating with me, and that now is more accepted in our world, right? Now, before, if you and I will talk about this, will be like niched into the little corner of Hay House published authors of angels, right? But now it's expanding into business. It's expanding into actually, we're multidimensional beings, and that we have access to these incredible masters and everything. So tell me about your first encounter with the masters.
So my first memory was around 5 years old. And so I've been getting visited by these beings since little. The first conscious memory I have is around maybe 4 or 5. And it was me on my bed and this Oriental presence master sitting with me. And he was having me hold, it looked like a cartilage little figurine. And he was having me sculpt it. Like he was teaching me how to sculpt the little figurine. And the memory I have during that time is that he was teaching me about the frailty of humanity, and that even though there's this frailty within humanity, there's also this powerful presence and source within us. And I would be taught about the spirit. Actually, they want me to say it differently. So one second. The beingness, thank you. They're audibly telling me to say, like, this being was teaching me about the beingness within me and our soul, and that we actually are very powerful. So my memory of that is as if they were teaching me that I was both soul and being, I guess is how they want me to articulate it, and that I was also human, that the frailty was only a small part of who I was, as much as it was a small part for everybody else. And in that memory, he was helping me to understand the vulnerability, but also lean into owning my strength, and how somehow in its own way was helping me to know that it was part of my purpose to remember this. It wasn't that it was saying, oh, you're going to be doing this or doing that, but it was like, it was important for me to remember that. And those memories continued all my life. I actually didn't realize that people weren't seeing beings like me or hearing guidance and hearing what I called God until I was in college, just because I would talk to my parents, and it was very divinely orchestrated that the people in my life that I would talk to and share and be very natural with all of this treated me like, oh, that's great. Like it wasn't treated like it was different. So I actually didn't realize that other people couldn't hear and see the same things until I was in college, which is interesting to admit. But yes, it took a while for me to realize that.
I love that, because how many children and how many, and we'll talk about what many people label as special need kids or highly intuitive kids. They have access to these beings. They see what the typical trained mind doesn't, right? And so, yeah, that must have been quite to adapt, right, to a world that cannot talk or cannot see these beings that are always present to communicate with us. In my experience, that's it. Like we're having that experience with you right now. Like you are literally, I'm in the podcast with you and the masters. It's like I'm going to interview them too. I'm going to take the opportunity. So when you have this experience of these masters, so how was it for you? Because I know a lot of parents are hearing this show. How was it for you to share this, who you were and what you were able to see, hear, translate for others with your own family? How was that received?
Well, it was actually well received. I mean, I even remember stories, and I know this is different, but I would remember even telling my grandma, like, "Oh, I saw this and I saw that, and I